Okay, I think that's everyone here now. Okay, so let's get started. Good morning, everyone, and you're very welcome to today's webinar, High Performance Computing SME Accelerator Open Call. This is brought to you by the Irish Centre for High-End Computing. And just if your mics are, just make sure your mics are on mute at the moment while we go through this. Thanks, Emil. Great stuff. So my name is Megan and I'll be the Zoom master for today. So just before we start, just some webinar etiquette. Can you please ensure that your mics are on mute? We will be recording this session, so feel free to keep your cameras off if you wish to do so. Both the recording and the slides will be available shortly afterwards. They'll all be sent out to you. We're happy to encourage discussion, so if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat during the presentation and we'll get to it during the Q&A session at the end. And if you have any questions throughout, you can also unmute your mic and ask your question if you wish to do so. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Peter Woods, the CEO of Irish Centre for High-End Computing.
Thank you, Megan. And I start by correcting that I'm not the CEO of Irish Centre. That's James, who's our director, who's met us kindly today. So thanks very much, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. It's a very exciting time for iTech, and it's a great opportunity for us to get to work with SMEs like yourselves. And we'll go through everything today. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. I'm going to start with a short presentation just to introduce where we're coming from. And if I can just share this. Is that okay? Can everyone see that? Yeah.
Yes, Peter. Yeah.
Yes.
So we have an hour here today. It's fairly packed hour. So I try to keep it as short as possible as whatever speaking. We have some lovely speakers, some very good speakers, and thank you very much for all you for attending and presenting on for this. As I say, it's only an hour. We have question and answers at the end for 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll get to them then. You can address there's people on the panel, but if you want, is there anyone else outside of the panel that's not there, you want to address a question, please feel free to do it, and we'll get to that also. So just to give you a little bit of a background as to where the SME Accelerator comes from. And it all started with the Digital Europe program. Now, the aim of the Digital Europe program is to help European businesses, especially smaller ones, to deploy advanced technologies. The European Commission are pumping 8 billion of funding into this over the next 7 years. So there's a lot of money there. And what we're trying to do is to get this down through the pyramid, or down through the stream, as you will see that. This particular program is coming through the EuroHPC. Now, the EuroHPC has two aspects to that. One is to build up and strengthen the EU's supercomputing and data processing capabilities. Basically, Europe was falling behind in terms of infrastructure in Europe. And through this EuroHPC, they have co-funded a number of systems, and some of them, as you will see, relatively small, even though they're big in terms of computing processes, but some of the larger ones will be the top supercomputers in the world when they come on stream. And through this EuroCC SME Accelerator, you will get access to these if your project warrants it. So it's a great thing to have. And then the other thing for EuroHPC was to increase accessibility and broaden use of supercomputers for SMEs. So again, we had to find a way to get money, funding, skills from EuroHPC down to use the SMEs in all of the countries. So in each of the countries, a designated HPC competency center was allocated. Luckily for us in iTech, being the Irish Centre for High-End Computing, we are the National Competency Centre. So that allows us to do a number of things. One is engage things like this, but also it allows us to connect with other competency centres throughout Europe. So, for example, if you are dealing with autonomous systems and vehicles, and no, we're not just talking about cars, we're talking about drones or anything else, whilst we in iTech may not have the skills or the appropriate skills at the moment, it gives us access to and a direct route to specialization from more leading German and Dutch competency centers. So no matter what you're thinking about in HPC, we will have access there and we'll be able to assist you on it. iCheck itself is not only a HPC center, we do a lot more. Today we're concentrating on the HPC, HPDA, AI side of things. But if you have any other queries or questions in relation to anything, please get in touch with us outside of this or as part of this, whatever you want to do yourself. So as part of our EuroHPC, iCheck are implementing 4 different strands. One is an academic flagship for 4 large projects, and they have been accepted and are on our website if anybody's interested. Second one is a performance optimization. This is more consultancy role for, we would probably see them as larger firms that are having issues. And the third one is skills and training. And we have Simon here today who's going to he's only a 5-minute short presentation on skills and training and how we'll be approaching that. And the fourth one is the SME Accelerator, and this is what the webinar today we're concentrating on. So the EuroHPC SME Accelerator, what does it provide? Well, there's a number of things that it will provide. One is access to HPC's skilled resources for completion of an accepted project. So if you have a project or are thinking of a project and apply to this, if successful, you will get access to people who are particularly specialized in these areas and will be able to assist you in whatever you need to be assisted in. The accelerator itself can assist in the optimization and co-development of new process, but the important thing is we cannot develop the processes for you. You have to develop them. We will assist you. We will transfer the knowledge that we have into your organization, and from that, then we would like to think that the next project comes up, you will be able to do it yourself, or at least will require less assistance from the EuroHPC itself. So it's about getting knowledge in relation to HPC, in relation to HPDA, in relation to AI back into your organizations. Projects themselves can range from a minimum of 1 month company's commitment for the participant company to a 6-month commitment. And for every month that the company commits to, the EuroHPC can provide 2 weeks. So a 1-month project, company has access to 2 weeks. So it's a 66% time for the company and 33% time for the EuroHPC. And again, this is just to assist the transfer of knowledge. We do not want to be doing, well, we're not allowed under the terms, but we don't want to be doing all the work for you and then hand it back to you. We want you to be able to do it the next time. Post-COVID, we would like to arrange for a portion of the time to be co-located, and that's just to facilitate even more knowledge transfer and hopefully build up an ecosystem of HPC within Ireland. So currently accepted for phase 1. We have, and this is phase 1 is the next 6 months from May 21 to October 21. We have 4 demonstrator projects, and each of these will be allocated half of an FTE for each of the 6 months. So in total is 3 months. All of these 4 projects will be presenting today, and you will see the varying technologies and the varying domains. So whatever your SME is into or involved in, I think you will one of these projects will hit a note with you, and you will see something similar hopefully in your own SMEs. Other things that the SME Accelerator provides are skills and training. And these, what I would like to stress here is it's not just for if you're allocating 2 people to this to your project. It's not just for those 2 people. Bring all the people in that you think may be interested in or may have something to learn from HPC or from HPDA. Bring them along, get involved with the training, whatever the training may be, and hopefully they will learn and bring that back to your company. I've already alluded to the fact that, Europe had fallen behind in terms of supercomputers. We're catching up rapidly because of your HPC, and through this EuroSME Accelerator, you will have access to not only the national supercomputer, which is key here in Ireland, but also the international infrastructure that's coming online over the next 6 to 12 months. And one of the things that we here in iTech would like to aim for is to identify 1 project annually that can be put forward as a lighthouse project on those pre-exascale machines. Now, they're not going to just accept any willy-nilly projects. You know, it's going to have to be a very deserving project in order to be accepted. So hopefully through this EuroHPC, EuroCC, we can identify at least one of those a year. If more come online, all the better. And then finally, the other thing that we will provide is access to further revenue streams. Sorry, I've left out the word revenue. So further revenue streams, both nationally and internationally, for successful projects. And Chris, who's coming on later, will talk about the SHAPE project and Prius, and there are other avenues available. So we do not see after your 6 months project or your 3 month project, or it is, we do not want to see you just go away and not coming back. And we would like to see this continuing on and a partnership growing between iCheck, between the SME, and between the rest of Europe. So that's my short introduction. What I would suggest or hope is that anybody that has any questions or any interest will go to the website or contact me directly, whatever you prefer. The application form's on the website. So just, you know, get involved, give us a shout, give us a call, and we can talk to it one-to-one and bring it to the next step. I think that's all. I'm not sure how I'm looking at time-wise, but I'm going to move on now. Sorry. So we're now moving on to the part where the 4 companies from phase 1 are going to present. And our first company is one of my favorites, Telenostic. And Claire is the CEO and founder of a company called CF Pharma, which started off out-licensing over-the-counter pharma products and niche veterinary pharmaceuticals throughout Europe. However, in 2016, Claire set up Telenostic to commercialize an accurate and automated system for fecal egg count detection across a wide range of parasites and across a spectrum of hosts. And actually in 2019, Telenostic won the National Award for Best Application of an AI Startup. And now hopefully through the use of HPC, we can help her to bring that to the next level. So over to you, Claire.
Okay, thanks for that, Peter. I'll just share my screen here.
Yeah, just share mine. Wait. Oh, it won't let me stop. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Peter. Yeah, look, it's been a fantastic trip with iCheck. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's been a fantastic trip with iCheck to get the sort of knowledge transfer from where we started. So CF Pharma, as Peter was saying, is an ISO 13485 medical device company, dealing more with molecules and things, and not that much with anything to do with high-end computer learning. And for me as a pharmacist, it was a complete journey. So what we set out to do is make an automated device that was point of care, fully automated, so that there was always going to be a huge amount of AI, because the identification of parasites up to now have been done by trained people, trained parasitologists, 4, 5, 6, 7 years qualification. And to change something from lab-based to point of care, the AI was always part of it. So at the moment, the diagnostic device is two parts. The first part is the cassette, and the cassette is a very interesting part. It actually allows you to take an image that is good enough for the AI basically to work on. And we have a worldwide patent on this. It's a flotation solution that the fecal sample is put on, and the parasites go up to the top, and the little green area there just shows you how you concentrate the parasites, and that allows to give us a really high sensitivity comparable to what currently is done in a lab at a point of care base. And the second part, so once the cassette is put in the device, the images are taken, and that's uploaded to the cloud. And it's uploaded, we have an infrastructure in the cloud that allows the algorithms to do its job. And then the parasites are recognized and brought back to whatever user interface you want. Sorry, this is not going on to the next page. Sorry. Apologies here, I don't know what's wrong. Okay, so the aim of this project was quite simple. We already had some using some high-end computer learning in our AI model, but the limitations were with regards to sizing and masking. And by using the super computing resources of this accelerator allow us to do that. When you want to recognize an egg and to differentiate a oocyte from an egg that are very morphologically similar. So you have two eggs that look very similar, but the sizes are different. And to increase specificity, the sizing allows us to do that. And it also, from a practical point of view and scientific adoption, it allows us to decrease the false positives and the false negatives that allows scientific adoption. When you have something that's always been done in a lab to change it to a point of care, you're always going to have objectors. So you really do have to have scientific excellence from the start to do that. And when we're actually masking was the second point. And masking actually had two really interesting uses. First, each time we get an image of the parasite, there's around, in the whole cassette, there's around 340 or 240 images. And those images are individual images that are uploaded to the cloud. So if an egg is halfway through an image, you actually can't size it. So the masking allows us to complete the shape and then the size and then size the product, which is also necessary. But what is really interesting thing that it also allows us to identify an organic shape and actually and send that to the user. And why that's very important is we've currently done all of our clinical trials and our imaging in Ireland, but we've done also some in South Africa. And the moment you change geography, you also change parasites. And because our library isn't full for every country for every parasite all around the world, in order for us to commercialize it, we have to know what we can do and what we can't do. So by having this sort of this net, catch-all net, it allows us to basically get the trust of the vet to identify anything that actually has an organic shape, send it to the vet, and ensure that they actually don't miss anything. And that's and again allows adoption and bringing into the field. So that's basically in a couple of slides what we do.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Claire. Yeah, very interesting times ahead for you and your company.
I think so. I mean, probably one of the biggest things for us, we're up against Pfizer and the big boys. So to be able to actually work with iCheck, we're actually working with a company called Antech at the moment, and they've been using predictive AI technology for predictive diagnostic testing already. So this is already in the veterinary area. So it allows a small SME like us to compete with the big boys by leveraging the iCheck.
Brilliant. That's exactly what we want to hear, Claire. Thank you very much. We move on now to our next company, and that's Ubotica, who were founded in 2016. And they provide technical expertise in areas of computer vision and machine learning in embedded systems at the edge. Ubotica has developed computer vision and machine learning algorithms for several different market segments, including space, IoT, and biomedical. And Brian is here to talk about the expansion of space sector to the use of HPD and AI.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me and see the slides?
Yes, and yes, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you. And look, I'm delighted to be here, Peter, and the iCheck team. I know the team very well. I've worked with iCheck in the past, and Ubotica is just delighted to be involved in this program, so thank you. I know Peter from chatting, and gosh, listening to Claire, masking is the technique that we are applying in our computer vision for AI. So there's also that perspective of companies learning from each other in the accelerator. And I think if that happens, that's a real sign of maturity of what iCheck are trying to do here. And definitely what Claire talked about, masking images for higher accuracy of definition is something that we're very familiar with and we apply. So just as an example. So Ubotica, we have a number of capabilities, first and foremost, very much focused on edge computing and the application of artificial intelligence at the edge. To process close to where you generate the data. And we have a particular focus on computer vision. Now, an awful lot, even Claire's example, an awful lot of artificial intelligence that we see today, commercially and otherwise, is computer vision based. Trying to understand what you see, what a camera sees, in lots and lots of contexts. There's a lot of value in doing stuff on the edge, latency, cost, privacy, etc., etc. We found space to be a really interesting edge-based platform. How further out can you go than on a satellite that's thousands of miles into near orbit or far orbit? So what we have developed full solutions for space that are AI, vision-based, edge-based solutions for satellite. We have a world's first that has been globally recognized through press and otherwise in peer review, the first AI accelerated application on a satellite. We did that to identify cloudy images on an Earth observation sensor. It's a really good use case because at the moment, Earth observation sends down all the data it captures, whether it's good or bad, cloudy or otherwise. And that cost of generating that, or generating the data, transferring the data, storing the data on Earth is significant. And a lot of it's of no value because it's cloudy. What we want to do at iCheck in the accelerator is to train more models with respect to Earth observation. Copernicus, which is just one Earth observation program globally, it's funded by the European Union. The European Union have invested over $7 billion to date in Copernicus. It generates more than 12 terabytes of data a day. We want to create new models with that huge data that help to identify other things that are important, chlorographic use cases, flare use cases, disaster recovery, the list goes on. Ultimately, we want to train models that we can execute on the satellite. And we're going to work with iCheck to train those models and help us apply those at an inference level on the satellites. So that's it, Peter. Again, thanks for having us here today, and we're looking forward to being involved.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Brian. Very exciting times for robotica. And as you say, how far further out can you go in space? If you can get it right out there, I'm sure bring it back in will be a bit easier.
Well, it's a joke, but it's true, Peter. If you can get to work there, it can work anywhere type thing.
Yeah. Very good. Our next company is Evercam. And Evercam initially started putting cameras on construction sites for marketing, project management, and for dispute avoidance. However, video analytics has allowed them to apply AI and machine learning algorithms to the data already collected, providing a new suite of services for the 400 to 430 time-lapse cameras currently live on their system. And Susanna will present how video analytics will be further exploited during this project. Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for introduction and good morning to everybody. Good afternoon. So can you see my presentation? Perfect. So we at Evercam are developing camera software for the construction industry. For the construction industry. We have been working with the camera software for almost 10 years. Later, we moved to the time-lapse specifically for the construction. And now, as you said, we broadened this to include site management and dispute avoidance use cases. Our main goal is to increase construction productivity by improving project visibility and team communication. As we all know, constructions are quite complex environments where communications are challenging, and every mistake and every delay costs a lot. And generally, the bigger the construction site, the larger the possibility that something will go wrong. So our approach is quite simple. We believe that if there's better visibility to the project and better team communication, less things will go wrong. There will be less disputes, there will be less delays, there will be less waste generated throughout the process. And to this, our speciality is basically turning video and images into useful information for people working on the construction sites. So today, Evercam is a leader in computer vision for construction. Last year, we filmed over 800 projects spread across more than 7 countries. We have over 350 cameras deployed live as of today. So as you can imagine, we continue to amass quite large volumes of data that require a lot of analytics. And each of this camera is accessed by approximately 40 users that use it to benefit for different functions. So far, we have been focused on software analytics and software innovation, applying mainly AI and computer vision. And this generally has brought us the market dominance that we have today. So with this program, what we are currently working on is developing a next generation system that will utilize top-notch video and image analytics. And we believe that we can achieve significant performance improvement with high performance computing power. So the proposed technical solution that we want to develop in this accelerator project basically assumes overall enhancement of Evercam platform and currently available analytics that we have through image in painting or super resolution that we can hopefully achieve with this program. And we want to use the HPC infrastructure to offer our clients even more than we offer now. So combining multiple camera views and essentially leading to real-time live analytics. So this, of course, requires a lot of processing power and a lot of data. Apart from technology advancement, we really see this project as an opportunity to collaborate with HPC experts. Our team of developers is ready to learn some new things. So I think this will be very beneficial for us in this aspect as well. And in general, we think that our competitive advantage at the end of the 6 months project can be significantly strengthened, allowing us to continue innovating faster and more efficiently than others in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susanna. And what I really like about the Evercam project is construction is not your typical HPC domain. And it just shows that, you know, every domain can have uses for HPC if you can have the foresight and the innovation to use them. And it's funny, going on to our next company is Neuritas, or in the health area, and probably they're one of the ones that are most recognized for the use of HPC. And Neuritas is a company that combines artificial intelligence and genomics to discover and unlock natural bioactive peptides with extraordinary health benefits. And as I say, Neuritas have been using HPC, but would now like to explore how quantum computing can be used for further analysis. So Hansel is presenting. Thank you, Hansel.
Yeah, thank you. So you can see the presentation. Back to the meeting. Just give me a second.
Yeah, we can see it, Hansel. Thank you.
Great. So yeah, I'm here. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. So I'm here on behalf of Neuritas, which is like a small biotech company here in Dublin. As Peter was mentioning, we are. So what we are doing is actually identifying and unlocking bioactive peptides from natural sources, and we have like a bunch of different data sets, like from public sources and our own data set of peptide sequences that we have been populating over the years. And then we use this information to train machine learning models to essentially identify like bioactive peptides that are basically validated in the lab. And we have this iterative process where actually this data is coming back, we are retraining the predictors and so on. And in this way, we can very efficiently identify like top candidates, like kind of fast, within months, essentially. We use like a combination of different techniques from molecular modeling, typical like docking, protein docking, to many different machine learning architectures. And nowadays we are essentially focused on transformer models, which is like the state-of-the-art machine learning models coming from natural language processing. So essentially we can use like a really massive deep learning models trained sometimes with even billions of protein sequences, and we use these models to actually map the protein sequences like into like a multi-dimensional space, so that we can look for peptide similarities, or we could train predictors like downstream predictors using these these vectors as inputs. And this is what, like this combination of technologies is that we use to actually predict the bioactivity of peptides in many relevant phenotypic areas, like inflammation, like it could be anti-inflammation, glucose uptake, like many different stuff. So the problem is that this is essentially like modeling in general, biomolecules is by definition is like a quantum problem, but we cannot like afford actually doing computing quantum descriptors or actually doing quantum, let's say, simulation, take into account the electronic structure of the atom, because essentially it's like extremely expensive, and that's why we're actually using, or everyone is using, classic classic algorithms or machine learning, because you cannot afford doing like real like quantum computations. But then, as you might know, there is some kind of revolution like taking place, like so quantum computing is supposed to be like a new milestone, and is gonna be like completely by default like a game changer technology in a few areas, like cryptography, but definitely drug discovery is going to be one of the main ones. So it's expected to actually impact all phases of drug discovery, and that's why main pharmas are already investing like important like amount of money to actually like have some quantum task force in place, and developing the skills. I mean internal skills to actually start using this technology when it is mature enough. And that's why we are actually engaging in this accelerator program, because essentially we will be collaborating with the iCheck Falls group, they already have like some expertise trying with this. And so we are performing, first of all, like one feasibility study to actually see if we can encode like a peptide information in the form of quantum states, and we can actually reframe some of the problems to actually take advantage of this technology, even if like nowadays we are limited by hardware and this kind of stuff. But this is it's all about actually start creating the skills and actually see how could we be using in the future this technology, and that's why we're actually involving now in this project together with iCheck. So that would be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hansel. And what I love about the Neuritas project is it shows that no matter what stage of your HPC journey you're on, this SME Accelerator can assist you. If you're only starting out, or if you're a long way down the track already, like Neuritas, please get in touch. We're going to move over now to Simon, who's Head of Education and Skills and Training in iCheck, and he's going to do a short presentation on how skills and training will be incorporated into this SME Accelerator. Thank you, Simon.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
Okay,
thank you. Great. Okay, so so as Peter mentioned, I'm in charge of the education training program at iCheck, and that covers everything from kind of our formal teaching at the graduate level at different universities, to short courses that we provide for both public and private sector, to kind of mentoring opportunities for students both in Ireland and from all around the world. So in the as part of the work program of the EuroHPC Competence Center in Ireland, there is a skills development or a training component, as well as other branches like the SME Accelerator. But the training component acts in support of programs like the SME Accelerator. And so, as Peter mentioned before, it's important to highlight that so the training component that we provide as part of this center is not just for the people who are involved in the technical project work. So from the 4 companies, not just those staff that are assigned to work on these projects, but we want to provide kind of training and education for across SME, across the sectors. And so there is a task as part of the center to carry out an assessment and monitoring of the skills needs amongst the SMEs. And so we'll be, as part of this, we'll be talking to the individual SMEs already who are already enrolled in this program, but also kind of the wider sectors of SMEs in Ireland. And this feedback will not only just help us kind of deliver, the right courses, but also there are going to be opportunities for future funding from Europe to support this type of activity. So Peter has mentioned that there's a Digital Europe program, which is a multi-billion euro program that funds HPC infrastructure, for example. But something that they're also very keen to fund, for example, is there's a pillar in that program called Advanced Digital Skills. And there's over 500 million euro allocated to it. And part of that will be for high performance computing training education across Europe. And they're very, what used to happen is, a lot of this training used to be very focused on academia, but now a lot of attention has turned to industry. So there's going to be opportunities for funding activities that will create kind of these lifelong learning opportunities for people who are from these SMEs and who are employed in industry. So that's where we're going. And as part of this EuroHPC Competence Center, we're going to deliver a number of courses over this year and next year. So we're looking to deliver anywhere from 2 to 4 courses based on talking to the SMEs. But just to kick things off, we are going to organize our first course around June or July this year. And as we've heard from the AI from before, the AI, deep learning, machine learning seems to be a trending topic for a lot of companies. So we're going to offer 2 half-day online sessions on practical deep learning just before the summer there. And this will cover, the real kind of hands-on practical implementation of basic deep learning workflows and analysis. So this would be aimed at technical staff at SMEs who may have dabbled in machine deep learning, but kind of really wants a hands-on examples of how these things work in practice. So we'll cover things like, from frameworks, tools, and resources, how to prepare your data, how to train your first model, testing, inference, and then learn about some of the common pitfalls and their implications. I mean, it won't turn you suddenly into a deep learning expert, but it allows you to take the first step in learning about deep learning. And so this course will, we don't have an exact date yet. So keep an eye out on our website for when it's going to be announced, but it should occur around June or July this year. And participation is free, and priority will be given to industry and in particular SMEs. So that's all I have to say. I'll hand it back to Peter for our next speaker.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Simon. Looking forward to the course. Our next speaker is Chris, and Chris joins us to discuss SHAPE, which is a pan-European program that promotes high-performance computing adoption by SMEs. Excuse me. It's supported by as part of the PRIUS initiative. SHAPE has assisted many companies to get onto the HPC ladder, allowing them to benefit from using HPC in their businesses. And this is what we're trying to highlight here. Chris is here to highlight, to show and discuss some of the success stories that the SHAPE program has assisted SMEs with. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thanks very much. So welcome to my talk. Thanks to iCheck for the invitation. So my name, as you said, is Chris Johnson. I'm based at EPCC in Edinburgh, and I coordinate the SHAPE program. So this is separate from the SME Accelerator, but it's similar and does give some examples of the ways in which HPC centres can work with SMEs on HPC. So I'll first give a brief overview of the programme and how it can help SMEs, and then in particular I'll give some examples of the kinds of projects that have been carried out. So I frame most of my talk as a set of questions, which I'll try and answer as I go along. I'll start by describing what SHAPE is, tell you a little bit about how SMEs can apply, and then concentrate on the actual projects. So what is the SHAPE program? Well, SHAPE stands for the SME HPC Adoption Program in Europe, and as mentioned, it runs within PRACE. It started back in mid-2013 as a pilot call, with the second call in 2014. Then from 2015 onwards, it's run as a series of of calls at 6 monthly intervals, with the 13th call presently open, closing on the 1st of June. So how can SMEs benefit from SHAPE? Well, the SHAPE program aims to raise SMEs awareness of HPC and give those with no experience or practically no HPC experience help in trying out HPC. So I'll talk a little bit in a few slides' time about what we actually mean by HPC in the SHAPE context and what it might mean to SMEs. But I'll first of all talk a little bit about some of the benefits. So there are a number of ways in which SMEs can benefit from HPC. So it can enable the development of new products that aren't practical without HPC, can speed up development time, leading to reduction to time to market, can also reduce R&D costs. And it can also increase the quality and services and products that the SME offers. Can reduce marketing, manufacturing costs, and can allow innovation that wouldn't otherwise be possible. We're seeing emerging of what we might call HPC and big data. So this leads to more opportunities for HPC in new sectors that might not traditionally have used HPC. So we've had a number of projects, for example, from medicine and finance, for example, not traditional HPC users. We've having a lot of projects in the machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, all the things that have been mentioned already today. So the big question then is why do SMEs not already try out HPC? Well, there can be lots of barriers to this. So firstly, there's a cost of operation. If you take into account all the overheads, the first project can cost an SME a large 5 or even 6-figure sum, which most small SMEs are not in a position to spend when there's no absolute guarantee of success. Secondly, the SME may have no in-house experience of HPC, meaning that consultancy would have to then be bought in. And thirdly, the SME might not have access to suitable hardware. So this all implies risk if the SME hasn't used HPC before, but there is potentially high benefit. So what do we really mean by HPC? Well, HPC isn't just about running things on huge supercomputers. It can mean many different things. It could mean trying out GPUs, could mean taking a code which presently runs serial on a single core system and enabling it to run in parallel, maybe on just a few cores, perhaps on a few tens of cores. It might mean optimizing a code via some kind of algorithmic improvement. Could just to be increasing the amount of data that can analyzed. Could be taking a set of distinct components in the SME's tool chain or workflow and just linking them together, or it could mean providing some kind of service to users involving a mixture of the techniques just mentioned. But all these can have a profound effect on the way in which SMEs do business. So how do you apply? We aim to make it as simple as possible. We have a simple application form with some optional sections that SME can fill in. If they've got a good idea what they want to do, they can fill it in. If not, some sections are optional. No previous knowledge of HPC is required. And at any stage in the process, we can put SMEs in touch with the nearest HPC center, for example, iCheck, to help develop a proposal. And then once proposals are in, we have a panel which reviews the proposals and judges them on the strength of the business case, how achievable a project is, also looks at the commitment of the SME, how much innovation is involved, and wider social and economic benefits. So what do SMEs get from a SHAPE project? Well, it's really a collaboration between the SME and the PRACE Centre involved. The SME gets two things. Firstly, and mostly importantly, they get help from an expert at a PRACE Centre between 2 and 6 months. The staffing is flexible, so if the work isn't on the SME's critical path, those months can be done over a longer time frame. Secondly, the SME gets access to the most suitable HPC system within PRACE and an allocation of machine time, and we can help set up accounts and things. In return, the SME provides the domain expertise and then later on feeds back how things have, how the project has helped with their return on investment and so on. So which SMEs apply to SHAPE? Well, lots of different types of SME. We've had 71 SHAPE projects approved so far. Some of those logos on the right there show you some examples. That's by no means all of them. So many of the projects have completed, some are in progress, some just about to start. As well as traditional areas such as engineering and biology and biochemistry. There's also shipping firms, medical applications. We've had quite a few firms doing satellite geological surveys, and we've already seen in Brian's talk some use of satellite data there. So then I just wanted to give a few examples of some of the projects that we've had. So the first example here is from Renuda. So this was the UK-based company specializing in computational fluid dynamics. Their goal was to improve the performance of their steam turbines, or the modeling of their steam turbines, which in turn would improve the performance of the turbines themselves. So they had a code called Codex that was analyzed and benchmarked. The code was then optimized and parallelized using something called OpenMP. Overall, this resulted in the code running 27 times faster than the original code by utilizing a 16-core system as opposed to just a single core. So a simulation which originally took 1.5 days could all be turned around in 90 minutes. Next, we have Albertern. That's another UK company. So this one's modeling wave power. They find, of course, that the development of hardware is very expensive. So they're looking to do modeling at large scale. So it can have a wide range of scales to harness different wavelengths available. They, during the project, expanded their model to do parallel computing, adding a library called PETSI. That enables them to do much larger scale simulations to enable better design, and they can do a full array of wavelengths. Next, we have Open Pharma. So that's a company based in Germany. So HLRS in Stuttgart worked with them to implement the free software known as OpenFoam to model clean room airflow. So OpenFoam is already HPC enabled, so it was sort of ready to run. They were able to use OpenFoam to do their simulation and provide mock-ups to the clients. So due to the SHAPE project, their airflow simulations are now much faster, much cheaper than before, and they now use them commonly in their research and development process. So Optima Pharma, they've offered major customers specific simulations that so they can now be sort of more customizable. And then our final example here is from the Invent Medical Group, and they're based in the Czech Republic. So they create something called cranial orthoses, or what most of us would probably call head supports. They're created via 3D printing. It's of course expensive to produce models, test the model, refine the design, then print another one, test it, and so on. So of course, simulating these things on a computer can be done much more efficiently. So the group tried out a standard open source package, Espresso, and compared it to the well-established commercial package, ANSYS, that they were already using, and then also compared this with physical tests, and this all worked very well. So finally, SMEs are key to a thriving economy. Many SMEs can benefit from using HPC, reduction in cost, time to market, and so on. And SHAPE is really here to help overcome those barriers. So thanks very much for listening to my talk. So as you can see, there's a URL here for accessing more information about SHAPE, and feel free to contact me directly. And of course, you can ask questions here too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris. And we look forward to some of these companies that we're seeing here today going through the SHAPE program at some stage in the future. And iCheck will obviously assist them on that journey. I think when you quote statistics or facts such as reducing the time from 1.5 days down to 1.5 hours, you know, it does show the power of HPC and hopefully we can implement that for SMEs here in Ireland. So now we're on to our Q&A session, and Orna, who's an employee of iCheck, will be moderating the questions. So if I can pass over to you, Orna.
Brilliant, thank you, Peter. And thanks to all the speakers. That was really interesting and such exciting projects happening across a number of different sectors. And it's great to hear that the SME Accelerator is allowing these companies to compete with larger companies, and also really interesting to hear from Brian that it gave an opportunity to learn from other companies as well. So we might open up the questions then to our panel. So feel free to put any questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and ask it live, that's perfect as well. I'm sure our panel members will be happy to interact with everybody. So just to, I suppose, start off the questions then. So Chris, that was really interesting, and it's amazing to see how many European examples of how HPC has enabled SMEs to be successful. So have you any advice to Irish SMEs now on their HPC journey to allow them to emulate the success that we've seen in these other projects?
Yes, thanks, Tona. So I think the thing is that to first make contact with an HPC center, so in this case, this would probably be iCheck, and just try and get an overview of what's possible. Don't get too bogged down with the details initially. So these precise software you'll use, precise hardware you'll use. Just look at your overall workflows and the data you're trying to process, and just consider what are the bottlenecks. What is holding you up at the moment. Then discuss it with the HPC center. They can have a look through, maybe take a look at the codes you're using, make some suggestions. And after that, you can then discuss details and how to actually apply for a particular call, decide what codes to use. So basically start simple, don't expect immediate results, try things out, and just get in touch with the HPC center, because they may have seen something similar to what you're doing before. And they can offer advice and just get started that way.
Brilliant. That's great. And we have a question then maybe for Venkatesh. Venkatesh is a technical manager at iCheck. So Venkatesh, in your opinion, what would be the broader role for this SME Accelerator program in supporting SMEs or startups and for the Irish state?
Thanks, Arna. Hello, everyone. So I'll probably answer them just in two parts. There are essentially 2 points when we're targeting the SME's digital transformation through this program for the Irish state and the European Commission. The first is the SMEs may require use of different compute technologies. They might be HPC systems at large scale, or processing at edge devices like at smart sensors in factories, or even satellites like Brian mentioned. And then there are going to be enabling technologies like data analytics and machine learning, through which you develop the methodologies and the algorithms. Now, it is important for the companies to be able to adopt them into their operational process in a seamless fashion, because the methods that are developed with AI or data analytics have to be essentially then deployed at their operational platform, and they could depend on a number of compute technologies. They could be sensors or commercial clouds where you run your products and services. So it is important for the support system like iCheck and through Shape, but also for the SMEs to address them together, meaning HPC, AI, data analytics. They have to be treated together rather than in isolation. And that's the benefit of engaging with something like the SME Accelerator, where you can address them end to end to de-risk adoption of these technologies as a whole, and then develop your skills in considering them together, particularly in the context of your organization's products, solutions, operations. Now, the second is more broader, because all member states and the EU as a whole have set a very high ambition of the green transition and climate change mitigation targets. Now, the industry is also expected, and we will be increasingly expected to play a critical role in this to achieve these certain targets set by the Commission and the member states for their green transformation. So this may be, depending on the sector or your operations, it might be optimization of your carbon footprints through efficient processes, resource utilization, optimization, or reducing your wastage and so on. So companies are also having to increasingly address this going forward by building their resilience and sustainability, but also make sure that their carbon footprint or their green policy is aligned and can contribute to the national and EU requirements. So digital transformation is essential in this, and it's going to be an indispensable tool to achieve this green transition at an individual business or organization level, that then builds up to a regional, national, and global levels. So programs like the SME Accelerator through EuroHPC are the instruments that the organizations, the SMEs companies can use, but also is used by the Irish government and the EU to support the industry to achieve these.
That's brilliant, Venkatesh, thanks. And there's just a question in the chat as well, and I might direct towards you, but Claire, Chris, and Susanna, feel free to jump in as well, regarding what level of maturity can companies bring their ideas, their projects to this program? So would the program consider early stage ideas? So Venkatesh, have you got any comment on, I suppose, the level of maturity or where they have to be with their idea?
So at this stage, the support that is provided to the SMEs is at all levels of TRL. So you might have an operational workflow or a product that needs certain augmentation in terms of technology or optimization. So that's a relatively higher TRL close to already a production system. That's something. And for example, if I may quote Hansel, that could be the other end where there are technologies or methods that are not necessarily a part of your solutions currently, but you want to explore the technologies or what are the possible solutions that you can develop as a part of your business. So there is no set restriction on what your requirements are in terms of maturity. We can address the different spectra there.
And Claire, do you have a comment on that as well?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, Peter has been a fantastic moderator, because for me, from somebody from not this world, he's made it very easy from an innovation partnership 4 or 5 years ago to now. I have, we've got more funding, and I have a load of people who speak his language working for me. So they've been able to take us from the very, very start, from concept to nearly finished product. We're around 6 months away from launching at this stage, and they've worked with us via different strands without feeling intimidated, because it's a completely different world. So for me, as a business owner and as a person who I put my own money into it, they're a really good partner. But Peter has facilitated that all the way, and doesn't get too technical, because at the end of the day, I don't really care about the technology. I just want a product that works and that is suitable and that actually is designed for what it needs to do within my industry. So I don't need to know everything, but I just need to know that I'll get sales at the end of the day.
That's brilliant. I might throw a question out to Susanna then as well, because the construction sector isn't one that we've traditionally associated with HPC. So we'd be really interested to know, how important do you see these types of services like high performance computing, AI, as a way to open up new markets in the future?
Yes, so definitely construction is one of the least digitalized sectors today. But I think this industry is already seeing the benefits that digital transformation and high computing power is bringing to other sectors. And as we know today, modern sites are gradually becoming rich in data from various sources. They use cameras, sensors, drones. But as the impact of AI depends on not only having the right data, but also extracting useful information from that data, this still remains a challenge. And where I see the opportunity here is that the availability of right tools and capabilities for processing that data, such as HPC infrastructure, advanced computing, or analytics, will become crucial for opening the sector and other new markets for future, to stay competitive, efficient, and truly benefit from this digital transformation that we are undergoing now.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's a really exciting time as well. And I have a question, Claire, as well, regarding your project. So as part of the accelerator, you're proposing to increase the speed in identifying any parasite, any parasitic infection, as well as trying to reduce down the false negatives, and then improving accuracy by introducing that egg sizing. So while the aim is that, I suppose, you're improving the efficiency and speed of identification and not missing any false negatives, you also, the ideal situation is you're getting improved accuracy and speed. But would you agree with Mike Ryan from the World Health Organization that the speed really trumps perfection in your business case as well?
Well, I suppose our goal was to automate current lab practice to make it point of care. So therefore, our reference point for scientific adoption by the veterinary community was sort of reporting standards to lab-based or medical device ISO standards. But we also needed the ergonomics of a non-trained user that was point of care. So our idea that the person that checks in the dog will be able to go run the sample and take and have the results within the consult. And then, especially with the masking, you know, you can do research for years and years and years, but you can't ever have an AI model trained for every image in every territory for every parasite in the world. So this masking thing really, really helps us to be able to actually get to market and still have that user that gives the vet trust in the product, that, you know, anything that it doesn't recognize, they'll be able to get an image of it. So at the end of the day, I suppose, you know, it's always a balancing act. You know, the higher magnification, the lower the sample size, the lower the sensitivity. But at the end of the day, the business and the area you're in will dictate what you want. And for us, it was to have something within console. So we were changing something that was taking 4 to 5 days to sort of 15 to 20 minutes. So it's all quite relative. But I think, you know, the business will dictate what you need to do. And we've always, because we're screening, we're never competing with PCR testing, for instance, where we're screening a whole range of parasites. So what you want to do is you want to be able to give a diagnosis so they can make a good decision based on the information that they have. So it always has been a balancing act, and I think, you know, trying to get all the guys, and I mean, the reason why our product wasn't done up until now, because it's a complex set of skills, you know, from your parasitologist to even the image, to actually take an image in a fecal sample is quite difficult. So I think it's balancing, and it's ensuring that you look at the end of the day of what you're trying to achieve and what the market will accept. But you have to be accurate, and I mean, AI allows you to do that. So it's again in ours the fecal sampling is the thing that everybody got who was the last person in the lab, because it's the worst job to do in a lab, and it's also smelly and not very nice. So to have that reliability was an extra thing too. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's very clear. And we're kind of coming up towards the end of the webinar. So if anyone does have any final questions, please feel free to add them to the chat. But I think it'd be very interesting as well for anyone that's considering joining this program, for any kind of final kind of advice or recommendations for an SME that's considering applying, any real benefits that you think there are to being part and using HPC. So I might just open the floor maybe first of all to Susanna or Claire, if you'd like to add comment, and then maybe Chris and Venkatesh if you have any final comments as well. Great, Susanna, do you have any kind of final advice that you would give to any companies considering?
No, I definitely think it's a great opportunity to learn and benefit from the infrastructure. So definitely do get in touch, start the conversation, and you can see how you can get help and how you can get involved. So definitely, and the process is quite simple. So that's definitely, there's no bureaucracy that is scary. So I definitely
from my point of view, pretty much the same. And I suppose it's because our company has changed, I suppose, from a medical device company to an IT sort of company over the last years. It's, I suppose, knowledge transfer, and the guys at iCheck have been more than happy to hold their hand on every part of the way to actually get that knowledge in-house. And when we need something specific, they're also there. So it's, I suppose, not to be afraid of what you don't know, because I suppose the definition of a good manager is to surround themselves by more intelligent people. And for sure, in this webinar, I've surrounded myself by more intelligent people than I am. So yeah, it's not to be afraid of it, and they make it easy. So that's my advice.
Chris, have you any final comments?
I suppose one thing, just to come back to the earlier question about sort of what levels of help and things can be offered. So it sounds as if the Accelerator program, you can offer help at lots of different levels to SMEs. One thing I would say about SHAPE is it's very very much aimed the first time, SMEs got experience of HPC, very, very little. So it's just that very first step. That's all I wanted to add, really.
And Venkatesh.
Just one thought. The first step is to have a conversation, irrespective of whether you find use for HPC and related technologies or not. It's probably just an email and a short conversation.
There is a link to the website, so just icheck.ie. There's a EuroHPC link, and then you just go onto the SME Accelerator, and we'll have that first conversation. If it doesn't lead to anywhere, so be it. But do get in touch. We'll have the conversation. Thank you very much, Claire, for your kind words. We do try to make it as as seamless as possible. And Susanna alluded to we don't want to get you stuck down in bureaucracy, spending hours or days doing an application. Over a phone call, an hour over a phone call, we can decide if there is, or what the journey should be, or even if there's a journey to take. So please get in touch. And I think it's time to close off. We're a little bit over the time, but thanks again to everyone. I'd like to thank Megan, our Zoom moderator or coordinator, I'm not sure what, and master, whatever you call yourself, Megan, but thank you very much for it. It's all worked very, very well. Thanks again to the speakers, each and every one of you. All very interesting. We're looking forward to really looking forward to working with the 4 projects. And thanks again to everyone for attending. So I'll sign off at this stage.
Thank you.